Joining us now from the White House, the press secretary and communications director for President Trump, Stephanie Grisham. Stephanie, great to have you here in the John Fredericks Radio Network. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Stephanie, last night, I want to get to the elections very quickly, and then we'll go on from there with impeachment and some of the other things. Not good news in Virginia. Democrats winning both the General Assembly houses, also losing the governorship in Kentucky. A lot of people concerned about the messaging that might be coming out of the White House. Maybe it's not resonating with suburban women in Virginia, particularly, and Kentucky, both there. We didn't do very well last night. Do you have any insight on that, Stephanie?
Well, I mean, Republicans in Kentucky and Mississippi did win 13 of 14 statewide races. So that's really not that bad. I know in Kentucky, Governor Bevins and his allies are investigating claims of voting irregularities, so we'll see what happens there. I think messaging right now, it's tough. You're going up against the mainstream media, who has already announced that the president, has done all kinds of things wrong and is being impeached. So it's tough when we're going up against that. But we're confident that as all this impeachment sham unfolds and more things become public, it will show that the president did absolutely nothing wrong. And I would remind everybody that on the day the president won, we were told we were going to lose. All the polling showed we were going to lose, and look who's sitting in the Oval Office right now. So we're not too worried about it, to be honest with you.
Right. Well, in some of these areas, though, we did lose, and some of the polling is showing that the messaging that Pelosi and the Democrats have done, which, as you know, has been masterful, they've manipulated this whole thing. I mean, it in the short term, it's taken a toll. I'm hoping that, Stephanie, going forward, we're going to be better positioned to get the truth out and get some of this nonsense behind us.
I agree with you. The hard part is, in terms of trying to get the truth out, we don't know what is happening. So, as you just said, the Dems have put us at a huge disadvantage, which Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff know exactly what they're doing. And so when we don't know what's going on behind closed doors, it's hard to get the truth out, and it's hard to, say what's true and what's not. Now, yesterday, the transcripts that were released, that was a great day for us. Both transcripts show that there's actually even less evidence than they thought for this illegitimate impeachment sham. Volker himself said he just presumed there was a link to aid, and he doesn't even know what that source for his assumption was. And then Sondland, in the transcript, it says, POTUS said, I do not want quid pro quo. I want Zelensky to do the right thing. So as these things come out, as the transparency starts to show through, we are going to be better equipped to show the American people what's really been going on.
Stephanie, thanks again for being with us today. We really got to get the truth out of this thing, because the Democrats have been masterful in leaking just bits and pieces of information. And you know that anything positive comes out, they're going to release it at like midnight on Thanksgiving Eve or something, so that they can control the message. Eventually, though, these are going to have to go public. And I would assume when that happens, Stephanie, the narrative changes, because the Democrats are not going to be able to manipulate every little piece of information that gets leaked out, right?
Correct. You cannot manipulate the transcript. And so, as I just said, the two transcripts that were released yesterday were very, very good for us. I think also the American people are seeing that the president is continuing to work, and I think the message is getting out, and we are going to continue to push that while the Dems are working on this sham impeachment, military is not being funded. The government's not being funded. We aren't passing USMCA. We have not been able to pass drug pricing legislation. And then obviously securing the border, which is a huge deal, hasn't been happening. And when you look at the tragedy that just happened yesterday with U.S. citizens being killed in Mexico, it's very, very clear, and it will only become more clear, that what the Dems are doing is a detriment to this country, and they need to drop this and get back to work.
Well, look, they're not passing anything. No USMCA. No stopping surprise billing for medical bills. They haven't done anything with drug pricing. They've done nothing with anything.
Correct.
And so
nothing.
I know the president calls them the do-nothing Democrats, but it's even worse than that, because these are bills that are ready to go that sit in Pelosi's desk because she'd rather hurt Americans than give a potential political victory to the president. I mean, is that sick or what?
It is so clear that they are still so angry about the results of the 2016 election, and you're exactly right. They are holding real work that will benefit actual citizens of this country in order to try and stop him from being reelected in 2020. I would even point out right now, Congress isn't even in session. The last 2 weeks, they've done nothing but deal with impeachment, and then they went off, and now they're on vacation again. Meanwhile, today, the president's going to have people over to the White House to celebrate, our historic milestone, which is the confirmation of more than 150 federal judges. So today, we're going to be celebrating the fact that he is truly transforming the federal court system, and he is continuing to work. He's not being distracted, of course, by any of this, and that's how we're going to continue to go. And I will say, over the next few weeks, we're looking forward to the truth coming out, and we're looking forward to showing the American people what the Dems have really been up to.
We're with Stephanie Grisham. She is the press secretary and the communications director for the White House and the President of the United States. Stephanie, look, the fact that you've been able to confirm 150 federal judges is like big news, but these are the kind of things we've got to get out to the base, especially our listeners and the American people, because a lot of times all we're doing now is dealing with impeachment. It's all over the cable news day after day, and this guy said that, and this general comes in and says this, and we're engulfed with it. But meantime, the success of the economy, the success of the judicial nominees, the fact that we've got the greatest economic recovery, and I don't know, probably ever, African-American employment all-time low, Hispanic unemployment all-time low, U.S. unemployment all-time low, businesses opening up, small businesses at a clip that's never been seen. Minority women own more businesses now in the past since the president has taken office than ever before. It's doubled, about to triple. All of this, we've secured the border, illegal immigration way down. We're having all this tremendous success, and yet the oxygen is getting sucked out of the room with this ridiculous impeachment witch hunt.
It is. I mean, as you just said, despite everything that's going on, the markets are soaring. The president's economic agenda with tax cuts and deregulation and trade deals is working. Just last week, we announced 128,000 new jobs in the month of October, which far exceeded expectations. Since he took office, over 6 million jobs have been added to this country. There is some polling that's showing that out in the country, when you get outside the bubble of Washington, D.C., people are getting tired and disappointed and frustrated in impeachment. And I will say that when, you get outside of the swamp and the bubble of D.C., I think people do understand that this president is impacting them. They're seeing it in their paychecks. They're seeing it in their communities. And we're going to keep going out into the country and get outside of D.C. and talking to people directly, as the president does so well. And I really believe that this will continue to break through.
Give us a little insight about the job numbers on Friday that, again, went really unnoticed because the impeachment debacle, fiasco, the sham that we're dealing with. Because, look, one of the things the president promised is he would get the economy going. We had another tremendous jobs report on Friday that kind of went by the wayside, never got mentioned on any of the Sunday shows. Can you elaborate on that?
Absolutely. It's funny. I actually did a TV show I won't mention last week, and you're right. All they wanted to talk to me about was impeachment, and I had to actually bring up. I said, hey, can I talk to you about the jobs numbers? So, again, 128,000 jobs created in October. It surpassed expectations by more than 40,000. Again, it's more than 6 million jobs have been created since he became elected. And then the American worker continues to see higher wages and bigger paychecks. And this is something that we're going to continue to drive home. And when the president goes out, he's going to Louisiana tonight. When he speaks at his rallies, he's speaking to people and he's telling him these things. He, of course, goes to social media. That's no secret. And he's speaking directly to the public, too. So I really believe that we will continue to actually tell the truth over here, show what benefit it is to have this president in office, and I know we're going to have him again in 2020.
We look at the transcripts that have been released, and as you read them on impeachment, Stephanie Grisham, and go through them, no one can find a single incidence of quid pro quo or any wrongdoing. What's the Democrats' endgame here?
Well, they want to undo the 2016 election. They want to make sure he is not elected. I do want to tell all of your listeners, I sit in meetings with the president and foreign leaders from all over the world. And these conversations are they're not unusual. This president cares about where taxpayer money goes and how it is being spent. So for him, he does not want to send foreign aid to countries that have been known for corruption, which was the case for Ukraine. He wanted to ensure that before we sent more foreign aid, which is taxpayer money, over to that country, that this new president was really going to do what he said he was going to do. And also burden sharing has been a very big thing for this president. He talks to every foreign leader I have ever sat in with him. He talks to them and says, you need to help. The president or the United States should not be on the hook for sending foreign aid all over the world. Other countries need to chip in. So the Dems are using this. It's a distraction. It's because they know their radical left-wing ideas are never going to go anywhere and is not going to get a Dem in office in 2020. So their only other option is to try to lie and take this president down, and it just won't work.
Stephanie, I know we're short on time. I just want to tell you this. I had Congressman Morgan Griffith on today, Republican, Southwest Virginia, and he had an interesting quote on this whole thing. He said, one administration stopped an investigation into corruption in the Ukraine. Another one tried to start it. So if you really look at it that way, the Obama administration and Joe Biden stopped the investigation into corruption, and the Trump administration asked for an investigation into corruption as they were giving them more of our taxpayer dollars. But even that was not even attached to it. It was no quid pro quo. He simply said, why don't we go forward and see if you can continue with your campaign, promised President Zelensky basically, in order to root this corruption out. I mean, that's basically what the president said. And what Griffith said is that that has not been forwarded to the American people because Biden basically stopped it in order that his son would not be investigated. How do you react to that?
No, well, I agree with you, and I think that it should bother all American people that a previous administration would have behaved that way. I would just close the interview with saying, in their transcript that was released yesterday by Sondland, he says that the president specifically said, I want Zelensky to do the right thing. And Sondland asked, what does that mean? And the president said, I want him to do what he ran on. And as you just stated, Zelensky ran on anti-corruption. So that was very important to the president before American dollars flowed to another country, that it was a country with no corruption.
Stephanie Grisham, thank you for joining us today on the John Fredericks Radio Network. I really appreciate it. Stephanie Grisham, the press secretary for the President of the United States and also communications director for the Trump administration White House. Stephanie, thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much.